Let's move on to the downstream factors and have some glance about some of the main molecular mechanisms through which p53 actually exerts its cellular effects. We know that p53 is a transcriptional factor and is a powerful regulator of several transcription of several genes. So they mediate their effect by transcriptional and inducing several target specific genes which does the job for it and thus triggers the response. Hence, these are the three main responses which lead to the activation of p53, which is the inhibition of the cell cycle, which lead to senescence or arrest of the cell cycle. Second is the DNA repair and angiogenesis, and third one is the death of the cell, which is a programmed death of the cell and is called apoptosis. So in brief about those effects, first one is the inhibition of the cell cycle. So first we need to stop the cell cycle so that we can allow some of the DNA repair mechanisms and other mechanisms to alter and bring back to the normal position. So for that, we should inhibit the cell cycle first. Second one is starting of the DNA repair to repair the damaged DNA which is caused by several oxidative stress or some other pathways. And third, even if the initiation of such a DNA repair mechanisms can't able to bring back the cell to the normal state, then the p53 initiates the apoptosis of the cell, which leads to the death of the cell, so that it doesn't change into a neoplastic transformation and become a tumor. Transient cell cycle arrest or senescence is a response to DNA damage, so that the damaged DNA will be prevented from being replicated and passed on to the daughter cells. So the genome will be maintained. And so what's the molecular mechanism behind this? It involves the transcriptional induction of a gene called p21. This p21 protein actually inhibits several cyclin and cyclin dependent kinase complexes, cyclin CDK complexes, and this pass the transition from G1 to S. And also secondly, it binds to another protein which is called the PCNA, the proliferating cell nuclear antigen, which has a role in DNA synthesis and DNA repair. p21 specifically only inhibits its role in DNA replication but not in DNA repair. So hence ultimately DNA replication will be stopped and DNA repair mechanisms will be initiated. Moving on to apoptosis. Apoptosis is mediated by regulation of the expression of several apoptotic factors, and they do it by induction of pro-apoptotic factors or pro-apoptotic genes. It's code for pro-apoptotic proteins, and repression of the anti-apoptotic genes. The extrinsic pathway of apoptosis is also more sensitized by increasing the expression of Fas ligand. So that it can easily receive the extracellular stimuli to stimulate the apoptosis. And the third mechanism by which apoptosis is stimulated is by inhibiting the signal transduction from growth survival receptors. And this is done by p53 by the induction of a certain protein called IGF-BP3, which is insulin-like growth factor binding protein. This IGF-BP3 actually blocks the surviving signals, and to be specific, IGF-BP3 blocks the signaling of IGF-1, insulin growth factor 1, to its receptor. So activation of all these different pathways in concert is actually required for the full apoptotic response. And moving on to the last downstream pathway, which is the activation of the DNA repair and angiogenesis. In cell cycle inhibition, we have already given an reference to PCNA binding of inhibitor called p21, which induces DNA repair. And similarly, several other proteins which are involved in DNA repair are also transcriptionally activated by our p53, like XPC, which is involved in nucleotide excision repair. And regarding angiogenesis, they also activate several proteins which are involved in the regulation of angiogenesis, like thrombospondin, as mentioned here, is an inhibitor of angiogenesis and is also regulated by the action of p53. Looking into detail about the very central role of p53 as a tumor suppressor gene and the guardian of the genome, it is very likely that any defects in the p53 protein itself or any of the signaling pathways or the effects through which it mediates predispose a patient with such defects to develop cancer. And such p53 mutant cells are characterized by genomic instability as these mutations are more likely to be maintained in dividing cells and providing an environment that is permissive for tumor initiation. One of the characteristic mutations of p53 are those is that it contains missense mutations which results in a single amino acid substitutions. Whereas mutations in the so-called classical tumor suppressor genes are usually nonsense or frame shift mutations which lead to some inactivated proteins. Whereas here for p53 it is a missense mutation. And this missense mutation leads to the formation of a more stable than wild type p53 protein and has a gain of function mutation. And out of those all missense mutation, more than 90% of the mutation occurs in the DNA binding domain of the p53 protein. And the next way to interfere in the p53 pathway is by having the defects in the pathway. Like we have some mutations in the CHK2 gene, that is a checkpoint 2 gene, or overexpression of MDM2 protein, or any mutation that lead to the inactivation of the downstream effectors that lead to apoptosis like BAX and other apoptotic genes. And all these eventually lead and predispose to the development of cancer. And apart from such acquired mutations, the patient can also have a genetic predisposition to p53 mutation, and such a genetic predisposition is called Li-Fraumeni syndrome. And being an autosomal dominant disease, you can see that having a characteristic cancer development at an early stages and for several generations, because only one mutation out of the two p53 allele is required for the manifestation. And these types of cancer are usually seen within families that carry the mutations which include sarcoma, breast cancer, leukemia and brain tumors. And thank you for watching. Hope it helps, and meet you in another video. And until then, goodbye.